All right, everyone, welcome to the Recover Life podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Joe.Siddoway. I have my friend Leisha here. We're going to be talking about some of the amazing things. We were just talking about this before we hit recording. Some of the amazing things that we can do with strength training, especially as we age. Leisha has a medical background as a nurse, and so we're also going to hear probably some different perspectives than a lot of our other past guests. Leisha, if you could give our audience just a little bit of a background, we'd love to hear from you.
So, I'm Leisha. I'm 58. I've been a nurse for over 30 years. I've always been active. Growing up, I did gymnastics, I did cheerleading, I did a little softball. So I've always been really active growing up, all the way up until I graduated from high school. After that, I basically exercised. Back then, aerobics was the big deal, and I really liked that. I just stayed active. I wanted to look in shape and feel in shape and just feel good. Then I got into motherhood, and that took over my life. I was still active, but not really like a routine kind of thing. My mom was a walker, so I kind of did that. That was like my normal thing. Like I would just go for walks, which I still enjoy doing. I don't know. Do you want to just hear the rest of like how I got into weightlifting from there?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So I started going to the Y, and I would get on the elliptical, then I would do some classes, and I was fine with that. And then my husband met a trainer, and he started working out with him, and he's like, you should come over and learn how to do some weightlifting routines and stuff. And I was like, okay, sure. So I went. Well, I got to be really good friends with this guy, Tony. Unfortunately, he passed away from cancer later, but great friend, just showed me a lot in the gym. I really saw a lot of changes in my body, especially getting older. And I liked how it looked. So I just kept doing it. And eventually I just got really hooked into it. After he was gone, we joined another gym, and we just kept working with trainers, which was very helpful because a lot of my friends nowadays, they're like, I don't know what to do when I get to the gym. Well, that's one thing that I do suggest is to try to work with a trainer at first, just to get familiar with exercising and what to do in the gym with the free weights and the machines and everything. So I did that. I worked with several trainers over the years. And then I looked forward to going to the gym. I really did. And, some people would look at me like, really? You like it that much? I do. And I still do. Then eventually, I guess by mid 40s, late 40s, I thought, I need a goal. I need something to work for. I thought about doing some kind of like obstacle course, race or something like that. I thought that'd be fun. And I talked to some of my younger friends that were into that, and I was like, yeah, I think that'd be okay. Well, and then I decided, why don't I do like a bikini contest or a bodybuilding contest at my age? I'm like, what have I got to lose? Not a whole lot of women my age that do it, but why not? So I met a girl that we're still friends today. And I'm working on another business idea with her now, but she was a coach, and I got together with her, and, I thought I was in really good shape, but I really just wanted to dial it in even more. So it was great because she gave me a meal plan and workout plan, but she did it in a really healthy way. I know that there's a lot of people that do competitions that don't do it very healthy. So I went that route, and really I enjoyed the sacrifice that I had to do as far as eating very clean, exercising the way I did. I worked out 6 days a week. It was hard. I couldn't go and have a glass of wine when I wanted to, or, things like that. But I really did enjoy that part of it. I stepped on stage at 50. And I didn't do great because I really don't like to be center of attention. I mean, talking in front of a crowd, I get really bad anxiety. So it is a challenge for me.
Yeah.
But you know what? I did it. I don't regret it. And I thought about doing it again, but I'm like, no,
I
I'm
was just I was just gonna ask if you had done it again. Well,
no.
and what it sounds like though is man, that's an awesome experience because it sounds like you started what I would call as like you kind of like three phases. Like you did what you just kind of intuitively knew from your experience. Then you worked with a personal trainer and got some more guidance. And then it was like, now I'm going to go for like a competitive goal. And I think sometimes we assume, especially when we're, a lot of people who are here 50 and older, right, who are listening, we assume because in high school I was competitive, that means the only route I have is I have to go and be competitive again. And it's like, you can take the time to just kind of ease into these phases.
Right.
And then you're still exercising today, you're still
Oh, yeah.
enjoying it. I wonder, maybe I'm wrong, but I wonder if you had gone straight into bodybuilding competitions from day one, maybe it would have burned you out or it would have been not as enjoyable of an experience. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe so. Yeah. I still enjoy it today though. And I really put forth the effort. I don't work out 6 days a week. I'm a nurse, so I work 3 long 12-hour shifts a week. So those days I don't work out. I mean, it's too much.
Hmm.
But the days that I'm off, I take that time and I go to the gym and some days I work out by myself, some days I work out with my husband, some days I work out with a really good friend.
Hmm.
But I really try and push myself. I look at different routines that I can do and but yeah, it's something that's just part of my day. I don't even really think twice about it.
That's amazing. What would you say then is like a good starting place that either you experienced or you've subsequent, now discovered? What's a good starting place or a routine that maybe a beginner could go into with weight training if say they're over 50?
So I get asked that, especially with some of my coworkers around my age. Um, they've asked me for routines and what can I do? And I'm just, I don't want to overwhelm them. That's one thing. It's like some of these personal trainers that you might follow or
Mhm.
see online, they have this grueling schedule. Well, you don't have to do that. You can just start out small, and that's what I try to do with my friends. They want me to do arm workout for them or a leg workout, and I just start out small, and I tell them just do it 2 days a week. That's all you
Mhm.
have to do. See how that goes. Do that for a few weeks and maybe do some walking in addition to that. And then if you want to do more, then we can add more. But I think people get overwhelmed and then they quit.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and especially when looking at like being able to build habits, one of the books, I don't know if you've ever read it before. It's Atomic Habit by James Clear. I think that's his name. Very fantastic book. It's all about how do we build habits. There's like 4 rules, I think, but one of the rules is make it easy. And so he'll say, instead of making the goal like I want to do 6 days a week in the gym, or even, I want to do this super intense workout. He gives the example for running. It's like every day I'm going to put on my running shoes.
Hmm.
And the goal isn't to run. The goal
Right.
is it's so easy that like you just almost you can't not do it. Double negatives, it's hard. But you know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's super, super simple. And I think a 2-day approach is fantastic. And another way that I've seen other people do it is I'm going to go to the gym and I'm just going to do one set of 10 on machines and then I'm going to go home. And
Yeah.
like the first month, you wouldn't think you'd see an improvement, but I just had a client that I kind of did something similar with him. And he's like, when I get off of work, I used to like be falling asleep and it was like I get home and crash. And he's saying just by 3 days a week of, a couple of reps, I feel energetic. And I think that's where the power comes in for
Mhm.
sure.
Absolutely. And sometimes that happens with me just going, I'm like, I want to be here, but I don't have a lot of energy. And then
Yeah.
quarter of the way through, I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good. I can keep going.
Yeah.
It really does make you feel better. And, not only just physically, but mentally, I feel better.
Mm,
I can.
yeah,
And when I leave, I just do. I
totally.
mean, if I'm stressed or got a lot on my mind or whatever, I feel like, okay, I've got this renewed energy back in my mind and my body and I can go about my day. So,
Have you had an experience? I was just talking to our last episode, we were talking about how she wasn't able to run because of a back injury, and she felt a difference, right? Not being able to go and do her exercise. Have you had a period where you've not been able to exercise?
Yes.
Okay, talked about that.
I've had not numerous, but a few surgeries,
Okay.
and some expected, some not. And, it really bummed me out. I'm like, oh, I can't work out for, 6, 8 weeks,
Yeah.
but I know, being a nurse, that you've got to take care of your body. And if that means I can't exercise for 6 weeks to heal it, then that's what I've got to do.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're just going to go backwards, and you're going to be off even longer. So, it was really hard because not that I wanted to sit out and do nothing, but, there was some things I could do while I was recovering. I mean, I could do a little walking. I couldn't really lift, but I could at least move my body, which is really important, even if you've had surgery or an illness or something. Yes, you do need to rest. You need to eat right. You need to do that, but you can also move a little too.
100%. We were talking a little bit earlier, and you mentioned the different settings that you were a nurse in, and I still remember as a student, I went in and I was in the acute care setting, and this was around the time of COVID, and I was on the med surg floor, and so it was just, you know, basically I'd have people who have kidney failure, have some kind of a surgery, and it was always so surprising to them when physical therapists walk in and they're like, I just got out of surgery. And I'm like, I know. And we have to get up and walk, and you don't. And so, but there is that balance. So obviously, I'm not going to be like, and let's go do,
Right.
heavy, run and do deadlifts and squats that you're one or something, right? But it's crazy how, I see the difference in outcomes for if you're someone who has had a surgery, or if you're dealing with chronic pain, or if you're dealing with something that's been nagging you for a while, you're probably going to do less harm by a little bit of activity than, if you just sit there. And so I think there is definitely that balance, but it's hard to know. It's hard to know how much is too much and all that. That's why you need healthcare professionals to guide you through.
Right. Exactly.
Is there something maybe in your nursing career? I know that you've done mainly with pediatrics, it sounds like, but is there anything maybe in your training or even in your practice where you've seen benefits in strength training for kids? Especially, I'm just thinking people who are listening might be like, oh, I wonder for my grandkids or for my kids, like, is this something that they should be doing? Or I don't know if you've studied that or seen anything like that before.
I not specifically, but one thing that really I see a lot of, which really bothers me, and I wish I could make a difference, is overweight kids. I see a lot of that, and it's I only see my patients for maybe a couple of hours since I work in a day surgery setting. But there's a lot of kids that come in and they're really overweight and they don't move and they sit on their iPad or whatever. And I know a lot of it has to do with education for the families and the kids. So I just wish that there was more education, I think, for families to make that an important part of a kid's life, is to exercise and move and, not necessarily play sports, but at least to just be active so they don't end up with the diseases that we're seeing in kids that adults.
I mean, have you seen how long have you been practicing for? I didn't ask that.
A little over 30 years.
Okay. So I know this is anecdotal, but in your practice and your experience, do you see more and more kids that are having these chronic diseases? Or I'm just curious on your,
for sure. I mean, diabetes, high blood pressure, specifically those.
And what's cool about those, and this is, for grandparents who are listening, the great thing is diabetes and blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, those are reversible, especially with lifestyle modifications, right? In fact, they just released I'm trying to think who published this, but they just released a new guideline on blood pressure. And now over 120, I think it's 120 over 80 is now elevated. Whereas before, I want to say it was like 130 or something like that. I just remember they shifted down to where we're realizing, actually, like, we need to be 120 or below, and we can get to there. It's not that this is an impossible goal, But, with lifestyle changes and sometimes with medication if you need it, or even for a short period, you can really control those things. And then, you get to be the grandparent who is talking to your grandkids. Maybe the parents aren't, you know, as educated on it, but like you can be the influence on your family. You can
Right.
influence your family tree and be like, hey, this is how I'm staying healthy. This is how you can stay healthy.
When
So
you can set an example for them,
exactly.
that's what I want to do for my granddaughters is, set that example that you got to stay active and you can feel good. You can not have health issues later on. And I
Totally.
want to be around for them.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about that a little bit as we kind of talked about the past a little bit, some of the things you've been doing now. Let's talk about the future a little bit. Where you're heading towards? What are some of your goals? So do you have like a benchmark or competitions or anything that you're wanting to do in the next 5, 10 years that you're kind of looking forward to?
Not necessarily right now. I just want to kind of maintain and maybe even, strengthen my body more if I can. I want to be able to, like I was saying, be active with my grandkids and be able to get on the floor and play with them and run and jump and do those kinds of things. I want to stay mobile and active and flexible and I mean, honestly, I wanna stand out with my age. I don't wanna look my age.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do you plan on doing that? What are some things? It could be what you're doing now, but can you go into some detail? Like, how are you gonna make sure that you stand out when you're 65?
I think diet has a lot to do with it.
Mhm.
Eat, and I've really focused on that too for the last 10 or so years. I pretty much eat whole foods most of the time. I think that's really, really important. And I know, it's hard if you're busy, but then again, it's not that hard if you plan ahead.
Uh,
Um, I've been made fun of for what I eat. Just like salad and chicken, and I mean, I eat a lot, but it's mainly, protein and vegetables, and I don't eat a lot of sweet things. Yeah, I'll drink occasional wine. I might have a little dessert, but I think that's really important. What you put in your body is going to help you in the long run as well.
that's awesome. So it sounds like not only are you gonna keep doing your strength training and stuff, but you gotta keep and maintain the clean diet,
Yep.
which is something that, to be completely honest, I've just recently been looking more into. And what I've found, and please correct me if you have any other information, but the biggest thing is one, you have to find something that's sustainable. And then two, I think everyone would benefit from just tracking their calories, not for the perspective that you have to be a calorie tracker. I now am because I think it's such a useful tool. But when I started to track my calories, I started to realize there was these sinks. Like and I would think that they were healthy foods. Like I was a huge, huge rice dude. Like I could pound 2 cups of cooked rice every single meal plus all the other good things. And I started to realize I was like, oh, yeah, that like one meal is over half of my carbs that I really should be eating in a day, or half of my calories for that matter. And
Yeah.
so it's just things like that where it just started to it just gives you more data to then make a decision that like tonight we're gonna do movie night. I'm gonna have popcorn and I'm gonna love it. It's gonna be tasty and good. But it's like I know going into it, okay, like I just need to accommodate how I
Yep.
normally eat. And I,
Yep.
I think if you track it for a little bit, you start to get a feel for how much excess comes when we go out to eat versus if you just make things at home, you can enjoy all these good foods that are tasty and less calorie dense.
Right.
At least that's been my experience. I don't know what yours has been or how you.
Yeah, and I think too, focusing on protein. I know that's, a lot of people
Mhm.
talk about that, but it is really important, I think, especially as you age, that you need that protein and that should be a big focus of your diet. And that's another way that you can track, if you track your not just your calories, but your macros and you make sure that you're getting enough protein. And that's one thing that I do focus on a lot is protein.
Mhm.
The other thing you were talking about, like going out to eat or, having movie night. I do that too. Like I love pizza. So, but I don't eat it all the time, but I love it. So when I know we're going to go out for pizza that day, or maybe the day before, I'll be like, okay, I'm probably not going to eat as many carbs as I do. I'm going to just be a little stricter until that evening. And then I'm just going to eat some pizza. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just that you can't have the things that you like, but it's moderation for sure.
Totally. No, I love that. And everyone's going to have a different thing that they love, but I think sometimes, and this is just me observing, but sometimes there's people who get kind of dogmatic about like you can't eat anything that's not like I picked it off of a tree in my backyard. And the reality is I understand where they're coming from and I sympathize with, and it makes sense logically that you want to eat clean foods. I think in general we should. But there's also something to say, like, I like having some birthday cake,
Yeah, exactly.
or when my wife is super pregnant, we just had our newborn. So like when my wife is super pregnant and she wants to do an ice cream night,
Yeah.
I'm gonna join with her and do an
Yeah,
ice cream night.
exactly.
It's
Well, and
yeah.
that's part of living too,
Yeah.
the social part of it. Like,
Mhm.
like you said, going to a birthday party or something, you don't wanna that's part of just life. You've gotta engage in that and be around people and enjoy life, and that's part of it. So
Yeah, totally. Well, I love kind of where you're headed and where this discussion has led us. I would, if we could, as we kind of wrap up some of this discussion, I would love for you to maybe leave some lessons you wish you had learned 10 to 15 years ago about how to age well. So maybe it could be very simple, but what are some lessons that you feel like if you had known 10 to 15 years ago, you would have done something a little differently approaching your 50s and now almost in the 60s?
I mean, I know I told you that I eat pretty clean and stuff, but
Mhm,
back when my kids were growing up and stuff, I mean, I wasn't overweight, but I didn't eat as well as I should have. And looking back,
mhm,
I'm like, oh, I probably should have instilled better habits with my kids,
mhm.
as far as what to cook or what to eat. Those kinds of things, may have helped. Maybe started more mobility type flexibility, those kinds of things early on. I mean, I do have aches and pains, and sometimes I just like ignore them, just keep going. But
Yeah.
maybe that would have helped me now. I'm able to get around and do a lot of things, but like I said, I do have some aches and pains from time to time, and so maybe that would have helped as well.
Okay. It sounds like though you have a pretty clear conscience. That's a good place to be,
Yeah.
right? That's how you know you're doing things pretty right. But I like that. Especially, as a young dad, that's something that I'm trying to moderate is, and those listening maybe with your grandkids, is enjoy the fun things, have them over, make the cookies, enjoy the memories, but also um, having some healthy choices with that and the mobility work. So as a physical therapist, something that I have been surprised by is how much benefit you get in mobility from doing full body strength training, especially when you're doing free weight. And so it's not, I don't, I used to think that you only needed to do weight training. I've since come away from that viewpoint. I'm realizing there is benefit in doing stretching, flexibility training, and all that. But you do get a lot of benefits if you don't have a lot of time. You had to pick one thing. If you have aches and pains, you feel stiff, weight training is pretty miraculous at how much of improvement you can have just subjectively. And even improving like hip mobility, decreasing knee pain. There's not much out there that I've seen that is better than some good old fashioned weight training. It really does the trick, especially with your connective tissue, because you put a strain and a load on them. And if you're doing like a squat as low as you can, you're bending all of your joints, right? And then standing up. And you're doing that multiple times with heavier weight. And so you're just getting the stimulus that forces you to be a little bit more mobile. So that's something that I've found kind of interesting as we look at how to address mobility. Is there anything else before we close? Is there anything else from a mobility standpoint that maybe you started doing now that you could recommend to people or that you've seen, even if you haven't done it?
Well, I mean, I do a lot of, overhead presses with
Mhm,
weights, and I feel like that's really important too, and that goes a long way with maybe your job or just, doing things around the house, lifting kids, things like that, I think that's very beneficial because I think you lose that over time if you're not practicing it, along with squatting too. I think that's
mhm.
a very essential move that you need to do.
Totally. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Leisha, for coming on here and for the chance to pick your brain, to hear your story. For those who aren't already following you, we'll go ahead and put your Instagram handle down in the show notes. But thanks again for joining us, and
All right. Thank
we'll see you.
you.
Thanks.